Hello everyone. Let's have more news about the Warriors. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Kobe White to Warriors trade idea would extend frustrating Steve Kerr problem. Just days after the Golden State Warriors were eliminated from the NBA playoffs, there are already a significant list of names emerging as potential trade targets to upgrade the roster during the off-season. One of those surfacing is Chicago Bulls guard Kobe White, with the 25-year-old set to enter the final year on a cheap contract before he presumably asks for a hefty extension. But while White would add a lot to a somewhat limited Warrior offense, he would also bring a notable Steve Kerr problem that's been frustrating fans for years. Is Kobe White exactly what the Warriors need? White has become a real talking point as a potential trade target after he was raised by Anthony Slater, Marcus Thompson the Senate and Tim Kawakami on the latest episode of the Warriors Plus Minus podcast. Slater went as far as to deliver the hypothetical framework of a trade, suggesting the Warriors could offload a former lottery pick and future assets to acquire the dynamic guard. If you're the Bulls, would you take Moses Moody and a future first for Kobe White? I mean, it's considering the Bulls' stagnant situation. Sure, you're as the Bulls probably getting a downgrade in talent, but you're still getting a young player that will help in a rotation and a future pick. Slater said there's little doubt that Golden State have lacked the Jordan Poole-type explosive scoring guard since they traded him for Chris Paul in 2023. The offense when Stephen Curry is off the floor has always been problematic, but even more so without another true shot creator from the guard position. White would provide just that, having averaged 20.44 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists this season on reasonably efficient 45.3% from the floor and 37% from three-point range, nearly 8 attempts per game. His contract makes him a realistic target right now and may also be the reason the Bulls are willing to move on if they aren't prepared to pay both he and backcourt teammate Josh Giddey significant money from 2027 onwards. The problem with White is you'd be adding another guard to the mix, which goes against what the Warriors are reportedly searching for right now in terms of more size in the front court. Golden State already have Curry, Brandon Podski, and Buddy held under contract for next season. Adding White as a fourth guard, needing significant rotation minutes, would create a logjam and inevitably end with plenty of the three-guard lineups from Kerr that have frustrated fans for years. That's not to say they shouldn't target White, particularly if Moody and a protected first is all it costs. Yet, having all four of Curry, White, Podski, and Hield might be overkill, meaning the Warriors would probably have to entertain other trade avenues involving the latter pair. Now, let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like. Injury. Like somebody was like, man, wouldn't you just play if you like? Of course he would play if he could play. But if you can't play in the playoffs, you can't play. It ain't nothing you can do. And coming back, you got to be all the way right because you're literally a half a quarter. Like I remember I pulled my hamstring in the Dallas series, and if it wasn't for just the momentum, like my hamstring was torn. I was just like it. We going to ride it till the wheels fall off. Right. But you know a Steph situation is different. He can't play. He can't move. So there's no reason to get out there. And now you're looking at your big puncher, your knockout puncher, like, damn dude. Alright. We're gonna keep boxing and squabbing with these dudes. But like, damn, our head. Oh, if we had our knockout guy over here, it'd be a different story. And so when you play like that, you really just, like you said, uphill battle plan to survive. But yeah, man. We've seen Steph play through a million injuries. Hamstrings, quads, calves, muscles. If he could have gave us 60%, I say number. If he could have gave us 70%, I still say number. That's not the answer. So, moving on. It was great to, bounce back this year throughout the course of the year and not see a whole year just go to by the wayside. Actually, give ourselves a chance. But, you all had a chance to win it, too. Why, you all had a strong chance. Why had a strong belief? And man, the way you all bounce back and put your name in the hat. You put your name back on the board outside of like, damn, we about to be mediocre and get and be, mid. You're not mid no more. Fact, you back to being a league. Yeah? And I think we got a chance now where you like, alright. So, one of the toughest things, as you know, to do in this league is like it's hard to fill the top of a roster, meaning you got staff to then plug a Jimmy Butler in. Like, that's a very hard thing to do in the NBA with how people work, with how franchises work. It's a very tough thing to do. I think we've done the tough part now, like we added a Jimmy Butler. So now you can now look at your roster and say, okay, we want to improve here. We want to add this thing because we now know, okay, this is the style of that game that Jimmy plays. We need to add X. Right? Like now you're accounting for different things and you're able to really build this team the way it should be built. And so that's that to me headed into the off-season is the exciting part, of where it's like, we got a chance to fine-tune this thing and put it together and give it another go or two or three, and so I think we all can still compete at that level. We've shown that. We know that regardless of what people may feel was shown, we know we can still compete at that level, which is huge. Moving forward to the to the off-season ASIN. I think we move forward in a much better position this year than we were in last year. So, I'm excited about that. Obviously, this league is very unforgiving. Got to survive the off-season, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, man. Off-season ASIN gonna be tough, but I think for getting Jimmy mid-season, well, you told me mid-season was not the All-Star game, didn't you? Yes. Okay. So like getting him towards the tail end this season and working that chemistry, but also I think it was a learning and discovery thing for Steve Kerr as well because you had Jonathan Kaminger, you had I like to say like you had a competitive team and young talent was emerging. Now you look at, Kaminger playing in the playoffs in Houston, also in the Minnesota series, the young guys being able to, with Steph coming, with Steph not being able to close out that last series, with the young guys being able to assume all those minutes, it's going to breed a lot of maturity for them, right? Talking about the Warriors' future, looking at next season, like what do you think is going to be the focus? Most importantly, going into the summer that you got to improve. Can't come back looking the exact same. You going into the summer, you got to improve. So, that's number one. And I think everyone will have that mindset. I think as far as the young guys go, when you get those opportunities, that can be a gift and a curse, right? Like you can get those opportunities sometimes before you may be ready for it, but I think we all believe as NBA players that we're always ready for it, right? The delusion in our minds as athletes, which is what allows us to make it to this point because you have to have some sort of delusion in your mind and believing that you're one of the 300 or 400 best players in the world to play in this league. You have to have a little delusion in your mind to believe that. So, we all have that thing. Neil, in this league, young guys will come in, including all of us that came in, and think you're ready for something before you are. That can be a gift and a curse in this league because you could have the potential to do something and not quite be ready in that moment, but you will then be judged off the moment as opposed to the potential. As opposed to people never see you do it. Then they'll just continue to say it's potential, but the potential could still be there even if you struggle in that moment. So, for instance, I think Brandon Ptsky struggled a bit in this series right now. I feel like his best game was probably the last game of the series because he struggled right now today and in year 2 a little bit in the series against some guys who's been through it now, and because he struggled a bit in this moment or after year 2 and having that moment, does he now say, oh, okay, they did X, Y, and Z to me in this series that made me struggle. Now I know that. Now I can go get better and improve upon that. That's what the summer for. Yeah? And then what an organization has to decide is, do I believe that that guy is going to do that work? Right. I've been playing with him for 2 years now. I know he's one of the guys that will do that work. I actually got a text from him earlier today asking me, what do you think I need to improve upon this summer, right? Like that is the type of kid that he is. And young man, I'm not going to call him a kid. He's a young man. But that's the type of young man he is. He works. And so his thing like what do I need to do? What do you see that I need to be better at that I could do to improve upon myself next year? Right? And so when I look at our young guys, they all show promise. They all grew from where they were last year. And so will every single one of them be back on this team next year just off short numbers in the way this business work? Probably not. That's with every team in the NBA. That's just what it is. But I do think all of our young guys from BP, Moses, JK, Trace, Santos, Quinten Post, the list goes on and on. I think all of them showed that they improved. They showed promise and in order to do that, they've shown work ethic. What's up, our fans? We got some great news. We're thrilled to announce that the new show merchandise is available. The site is now live so you can check it out and grab your favorites. Go to thegshow.com. That's the DGBD was his most since 223. And then before that, had some nagging injuries, things like that. But a very good season for him in terms of the number of games he played. You look at his field goal percentage was down, which is a bit interesting. He did miss some layups that were backbreakers in games and his 3-point percentage was down only 32%. This to me is weird because it felt like he was shooting threes more better. But maybe he was shooting more threes and he was missing them more. So that's why you can see he was shooting at least 1 to 3 game. He hasn't done that since 2017-2018 and he was 30%. 38% in 2015-2016, which was the mark of his career besides the year before that or last year, excuse me. So I would say it's pretty good honestly, and you saw how much teams sag off on him, excuse me. So he's given the corner 3 of the top 3 and he made some big threes, like he definitely made threes that mattered in the moment. There were a couple games he went like 2 of 6, 3 of 5. Other were some like over games, but all in all, I would like to think he did better than this percent-wise. But it's probably because he took a lot of threes. If we take a look, 246 threes, which puts him again right up here around that mark. So he took a lot of threes, made 80 of them. Felt like he made more. Free throw-wise was not good. 68% consistently, ended up hovering around 70%, a bit lower than normal. And you look at how many he had, 147, which up the. Not the most of his career, but was up the rebounding-wise, 6.1 total for the season. A bit low. And you can see he was really in the 7s for about a decade, if not higher. You look how many that is. 383, 414 total. So disappointing there. But I think it was he was more out on the upper perimeter more and he was letting guards get the rebounds. Assist, Always a nice assist person. 5.6 steals, 1.5 points per game, 9 again, coming with the threes a bit. The most he's had since what season is that? 2017-2018 per game. So look at this. Do you think that makes his season statistically as individually a success or failure? A bit down from where he is. I would say a success because he didn't have crazy suspensions. Yes, Draymond will get text in flagrants. That's just the type of player he is. But it wasn't detrimental to the team like previous years where he was out 5 games in a row, 10 games in a row, something like that. And we had to try to make up for it. No, he was available, a team leader for this team. Missed some games due to injuries. That's NBA. That's fine. But no long-term suspension. And that takes you to what he's talking about in his ex-interviews. So, what does he think just about the season as a whole? I wholeheartedly believe Steph was healthy. We could have done that. But I once won a championship where Kyrie Irving got hurt in the NBA Finals and Kevin Love got hurt in the NBA Finals. Do I think we still would have won if they didn't get hurt? I do believe so. But we'll never know. That's just the nature of the sport that we play. Injuries are part of it and they're unfortunate. So you can't take the good and be like, oh man, we won a championship and it don't matter that somebody was hurt. On the flip side, can't sit here and be like, we would have won had Steph not got hurt. No, you've been on the other side of that. So, respect it when it don't go your way. You know, one thing I hate as a front runner, you know. Oh, man. We won our championships because we were that good, which we were. But Kyrie Irving got hurt. Kevin Love got hurt. Robert Williams got hurt. That is the nature of the sport we play. So unfortunately this time, luck wasn't on our side and Steph Curry got hurt. But we've dealt with it before. Kevin Durant got hurt, Klay Thompson got hurt, you know. So you start to take a peek. It happens every year somewhere. It may not be here. It may be another team. But when it ain't on your side, you can't be the guys that go up there and be like, man, we would have won if yeah. In a perfect world, probably. But the world ain't perfect. It's far from it. And so take the good with the bad. The Minnesota Timberwolves ended our season. They beat us regardless of who we had on the floor. We were a playoff team and they moving on. That's just it. Sucks for Steph that he wasn't able to be out there 'cause you work so hard for those moments to be in that situation. And so I feel for him, but under no circumstance will I be like, oh man, they lucky. No, they won and move on. We try to get better this off-season, Asen, and try to do it again next year. That's a lot to unpack from Draymond. Overall, I love what he said. I mean, he's right. We won some series in the playoffs. He didn't even mention John Morant getting hurt to get to the finals or winning the finals because of injuries. And Warriors have been pretty lucky in the playoffs besides for Kevin Durant with the Achilles. Obviously, he was dealing with the calf injury going up into that we've been relatively healthy in the playoffs without catastrophic injuries besides KD, which I know is a major one, especially when you're going for a three-peat. I get it. But you can't sit in the woes. You can't say, hey, we would have or should have, we could have, whatever it may be. So, I like what he said there. And you work your ass off all season to get to the playoffs when it matters most in the miss as a competitor at the highest level. That really hurts. So, I agree with everything that Steph said there. You go to, excuse me, Draymond said right there. Now, the question is about Draymond moving forward, his position. We know he doesn't like to play center. Steve Kerr doesn't like him at center. They need a center. Is he the center moving forward next year? I am the center of the future. No, I'm just playing. I mean, You might be right. No, honestly, listen, Len has been here for 10 years, and he's been incredible. That was a key cog in us winning a championship in 2022. Trey has grown a lot, over the past 2 years, of being what was he 52nd pick or something like that? 57. And the strides that he's made has been incredible. What we do at the position, I'm not sure. That's not really my role. But what I will say is I think you always have to be looking to get better. If you're not looking to get better in this league, don't miss. If you're not looking to get better in this league, you're either getting better or you're getting worse because everyone else is doing the same. And so, I don't know what happens. I think Mike, take a deep look at all of those things. I know whatever I'm called up on to play the 5, I can. I think there was kind of a big worry with me playing the 5 so much this year. And I think I've answered those questions. I've been strictly a 5 since Jimmy's been here until 2 nights ago, So, and I think my body held up great. I feel great. I think I'm coming out of this season as healthy as I've come out of any season. And that was with logging 35 to 37 minutes a night for 3 straight months at 5 position fighting for a playoff spot. And so I know I'm cut out for it and can handle it. But I said we have to get better and improving requires you to look at everything. So I'll always be an option for our organization. And if they want to go that direction, I'm always going to be right. I wouldn't turn that down. You know what? If it's like, oh man, you can start at the 5 or you don't start. Why start at the 5? It is what it is. I think when I look around the league, guys are big. Joker, Singen, Zabuk, Joel, Healthy Joel. But I don't back down from anyone. And if that's what our organization decide to do, I'll be right here ready to go. If they decide that want to go one of the 5s on the roster, great. If they decide they want to go after someone, great. You know me, I'm always in favor of what's best for this organization. I can always see past myself. When it comes to this organization, what I love about Draymond, he's just always super honest and transparent. And you heard it right there. He bangs with the centers all the time. He then mentioned Gore, which was his series. But it's not sustainable. He's 66, 67 max, and he's done it his whole career, but he's in his upper to mid-30s now. People are getting younger, taller, faster, stronger, bigger, you name it. He did a great job against Saigon in the Rocket series. He held them. He was able to keep his position, not let him get low, get the finger rolls. So, he did a really good job. Give him credit there. But the Warriors need a center. It's obvious when I showed you the stats rebounding. We need a proper center. Someone who's big like an Adams, a Zubac like that who can command the post. Looney 10 years of service has done a great job, but he's just not that guy anymore. And they need a proper center to be successful. And then it takes you to the last question about Draymond and Jimmy Butler. With the trade, I think the biggest change that needed to be made was we needed someone like Jimmy Butler and we made that change. So I think the hardest part is done. It's harder to get guys like that through trade, through free agency. Just doesn't come up often. And so I think that part is done and puts us in a much better situation going into this off-season than last year where we're kind of looking for that, so that being said, we have to get better, and we understand that, we lost in the second round regardless of what the circumstances were. We lost in the second round, so we need to improve. We've always spoke about the being 82 game players and 16 gamer players. At some point for us, we have to take a look at both because, ideally, you don't want to be from February 8th on scrapping and clawing for every win that you could possibly get. That takes a toll after a while. For us, we've kind of been in playoff mode for the last 3 months. It's not a highly effective way to win a championship. And so, I think we all understand that from top to bottom in an organization. And we need to put ourselves in a better position to have a great year, not finish great. That makes sense. And I hope that don't come off as like, yeah, we want to finish great obviously, but the year needs to be indicative of that to allow the finish to be what we want it to be. And I get what he's saying here. You can't put yourself in crunch mode and have that pressure that back half of the season. You want to be able to do well all season. I get what you're saying, Draymond. Having to play 3 months of playoff, I think ultimately took its toll, over the course of the last few weeks. So I think that'll be the focus. Feel very confident, very strongly that we can still make another run or two at the ultimate prize. But we definitely have to get better. Dude, I just love Draymond's answers. He is so in-depth and long, and I know it puts the video longer, but hearing the full answer makes a lot of sense because he really dives into the details, and like he's right, the Warriors season before Butler we were 26-25, started 12-3, and then boom folks, it just got terrible in the late fall. Antetokounmpo to Warriors dream could get real after meeting revelation with the pillars of Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green in place. The Golden State Warriors appear destined to search for more high-level role players to surround the veteran court trio this off-season. However, that could all change in the next week when Antetokounmpo meets with decision-makers at the Milwaukee Bucks to determine his own future and that of the team after 3 straight first-round playoff exits. Their Warriors could still enter the Giannis Antetokounmpo discussion. After ESPN's Shams Charania reported earlier in the week that Antetokounmpo is open to explore where his future may lie, NBA insider Chris Haynes has now revealed on Saturday that the 2x MVP will meet with Milwaukee officials in the middle of next week. This is where Giannis is going to have the chance to speak to Bucks brass and talk about the direction of the team. Haynes said all he wants to do is be put in a position alongside a team that has a chance to fight for a title. This is going to be a very, very crucial meeting. Anthony Slater and Marcus Thompson of The Athletic reported after Wednesday's playoff elimination that there are no early indications that the Warriors will be at the front of the line of the yet-to-materialize Giannis Antetokounmpo sweepstakes. Yet, given Joe Lacup's reported dream of pairing Antetokounmpo with fellow 2x MVP Stephen Curry, it's hard to believe that Golden State wouldn't show some level of significant interest if the 30-year-old were to make himself available. Their Warriors could easily be outbid in terms of potential trade offers by Western Conference rivals like the Houston Rockets and San Antonio Spurs, but that doesn't mean their Antetokounmpo hopes would be completely dead and buried. ESPN's Brian Windhorst suggested during Friday's episode of Get Up that while Golden State won't win a bidding war, they could still end up with the Greek Freak if he declares his desire to play alongside Curry in the Bay. At that point, no one on the roster outside Curry would be off limits, including Butler and Green, at least one of which would have to be involved for salary matching purposes. The relationship between Curry and Antetokounmpo is a notable one, with the Bucks superstar the only non-Warrior player to make an appearance at Curry's All-Star Weekend party in February. And you fan, what do you think about Antetokounmpo's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.